our first song will be Blessed Assurance. Do we have those words, or do I page number 369 in the hymnal? Do you remember what the hymnals are? 369.
Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine. Heir of salvation, purchase of God, born of the Spirit, washed in his blood. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Perfect submission, ardent delight, visions of rapture now burst on my sight. Angels descending bring from above echoes of mercy, whispers of love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Perfect submission, all is at rest. I in my Savior am happy and blessed, watching and waiting, looking above, filled with his goodness, lost in his love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long.
Let me say just a quick word, because a lot of us probably don't relate much to this, but so people are texting saying, why aren't we online? Why aren't we online? We are online now, but last Sunday, or 2 weeks ago, we had some visitors, and I always say, how'd you hear about us, right? You know, did somebody invite you? That's what I really want to know. And 2 weeks ago, they said, well, we've been watching you online for a long time, and just decided to show up in person. And then last week, we had another family with 3 children, and I said, how'd you hear about us? They said, well, we were Googling affirming churches in Oklahoma City. So our online presence is important, yes. And since we don't have our words on the screen, I'm going to go with evening prayer, the prayer of Thanksgiving. And if you were here last week, I'm just going to pray it. You don't have to look it up, but evening prayer is a tradition, and so we have that in the back of our hymnal, morning and evening prayer. So let us pray. We praise and thank you, Creator God, for you are without beginning and without end. Through Christ, you created the whole world. Through Christ, you preserve it. You made the day for the works of light, and the night for the refreshment of our minds and our bodies. Keep us now in Christ. Grant us a peaceful evening, a night free from sin, and bring us at last to eternal life. Through Christ and in the Holy Spirit, we offer you all glory, honor, and worship now and forever. And all those who agree say amen. Glenda, do you want to introduce our speaker?
For those of you online, my name is Glenda Skinner-Noble. I'm one of the associates here, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I want to welcome you to Brent Greenwood, who is here to speak with us tonight. He has a biographical statement that I will share, but first I just wanted to share just a little personal information. I was a religion major at OCU, but I took all my electives in art. And so I was sitting there not knowing much, although I loved art, and just trying to learn skills, and there was Brent over there painting, and he probably doesn't even remember that, but anyway, kind of an art crush, I guess. And then he left and went to California, right? New Mexico to be in the Last of the Mohicans and return. And so I've just been kind of following his art. And then I saw him a couple years ago at the Oklahoma Art Education Association, where he was our keynote speaker, and had a chance to reconnect with him there. So we are very excited to have you, Brent. A graduate from the renowned Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and Oklahoma City University, Brent serves as a fine arts director for the Chickasaw Nation of Oklahoma. Over the past 20 years, his work has been exhibited across North America and abroad in Paris, France. Brent is of Chickasaw and Ponca heritage, and because of this distinct cultural background, he expresses his narratives through both the Southeastern and Plains tribal lens. His early artistic influences were Native artists such as Jerome Tiger, Rance Hood, and T.C. Cannon. Remnants from the Oklahoma style of Native art and Brent's love for contemporary art and graffiti has come together in a style recognizably his own. Brent's paintings have been featured in publications such as Southwest Art and Oklahoma Today, as well as receiving numerous accolades and awards. Brent's first love of graffiti has come full circle as he has blended that with his easel painting methodology to garner more public art opportunities. Brent's passion as an artist and job as an arts education director has never been more evident as he mentors the next generation of young first American artists. I'll say that he lives in Edmond and he offices in Ada and lives there during the week. So he came here tonight from Ada and is going back to Ada. So we are very, very fortunate to have him here. Please help us welcome Brent.
All right, thank you very much. Everybody hear me fine? And since I was blazing over here from Ada, I didn't have a chance for dinner, so I look forward to having that baked potato to take home with me. So, well, I think I'll just start. Again, thanks for welcoming me into your sanctuary this evening in the church. I see some familiar faces, and again, it was good to reconnect after all those years. I think I'll just start from the beginning, and or start with the current place and where I'm at right now in my life with art and education and things like that, and I'll go backwards. And when you brought up the Last of the Mohicans, that was pretty cool. I didn't think you were going to talk about that, because that's a whole nother conversation in of itself, because of the experience behind the scenes and making movies. And that movie at the time had the most extras of any movie in history, and it was directed by Michael Mann, and there was like over 500 different tribal individuals there. It was a great experience, and because of that, it also helped me shape like my narrative. That's a whole nother experience, because that's what my art does. It shapes my narratives to what I want to create and paint. Okay, so currently, right now, I am the fine arts director for the Chickasaw Nation, and what that entails is arts education, and I oversee an arts academy, which I was telling Glenda just as I came in, or it wasn't you, it was someone else, because I've been telling everybody since we were told we were going back in person this summer. Normally we plan a year in advance, but we were told, hey, by the way, we get to be in person this summer in 4 months. I'm like, great. So I've been in meetings the past 24, 36 hours nonstop. So you have to overlook me if I kind of lose my train of thought. But just want to preface it with that. But yes, I've been with the Chickasaw Nation for about 5 years now. I first started out teaching, a teaching artist with the Nation, teaching high school students, doing presentations, talking about my painting style, my methodology as it's been described with what I do. And my emphasis is trying to help the young people understand a sense of place, sense of self, sense of community. And so with that, I've been sharing my techniques and style, because we all go through the trials and tribulations, and especially as an artist, there's lots of up and downs, peaks and valleys, highs and lows. But that's the ebbs and flows of being an artist, and you have to have really thick skin. And so I think a part of that too is my foundation. I was raised up in the Methodist church. My parents We're board members of Mary Lee Clark Methodist, United Methodist Indian Church. And so I was raised up in that environment of community and family, as well as my tribal traditions on the Ponca side and Chickasaw side. And so with all that culminating into me as an artist, it really helped me kind of stay the course and never give up. And so as you can see, that's what's evident today for all my work here. Again, the Chickasaw Nation, going into my 5th year here, and looking forward to what we're about to embark on this summer is the Chickasaw Arts Academy. Again, arts education, we reach out to schools. We have programs and services in the Ada and the 13 counties around Ada that service our Chickasaw citizens, and that's who we focus on. But with COVID, we had to take a new direction and do a lot of virtual programming, and the blessing in disguise of that is that we were able to reach citizens that we were never able to reach before with Zoom meetings and things like that. So with every bad, there's always a silver lining behind everything, and now as we're slowly making our way out of COVID, we're still able to carry on that mission of serving our citizens and enhancing the overall life of our Chickasaw people. So with that, I want to go ahead and just kind of say that much about my current position with the tribe and what we're doing and talk about my art. So I've been painting for like 20 plus years. And when people ask me, when did I first start painting? It was, I initially would say, well, probably high school, and really kind of developed that in college. But when I really think about it, it was graffiti. And like, oh no, vandalism, right? So back in the 80s, I'm a kid of the 80s. I was into breakdancing. Wasn't very good at it, but I tried. In my mind, I was awesome. But as you know, I did some hip hop, and I still try to do that. Now, I'm 50 now, so if y'all could have been at my 40th birthday, y'all could have seen me do a little bit of breakdance moves. But I didn't try that for my 50th. I'll just say that much. So anyway, kid of the 80s, and I was doing graffiti, and my parents, bless their heart, they encouraged my art, every facet of what I wanted to do by supporting me through art books. In fact, enticing me to go to college. And went to OCU, being a Methodist university. That was kind of like the first pick. I had no idea where I was going to go, but my parents encouraged me to do that. So they let me paint my bedroom and spray paint and graffiti that. And then I took my skills down to the convenience store down the block. By the night, I think just painting by a street lamp. So I grew up in Southside Oklahoma City, okay, and that was kind of those times, and really the gangs really prevalent. But at that time, when I painted my wild style, which is very colorful, I feel that's where my palette came from, because I like a lot of color, a lot of energy, a lot of movement, and graffiti wild style is all that. It's just all this energy and movement. And so I painted my mural, my tag, my graffiti, and at the time I just painted the word Zeppelin, because my dad was a big Led Zeppelin fan. So I chose that tag. So that's what I painted on the wall. But where I received validation that I must have been doing something kind of halfway decent is that my piece wasn't tagged out. Usually within a week, anything that went up on that wall was sprayed out, new gang tags, numbers, whatever. But mine stayed that way for until the owner decided to paint over it for 5 years. And I was like, of course, the 3rd, 4th, 5th year, people would kind of write, but there was nothing really prominent that totally took that away. And for me, I was like, that's kind of validation. They respect that. And as street writers, graffiti writers, we have this mutual respect for one another, which I experienced firsthand back then in the 80s. And so with that, going into my college years, I developed a love for canvas painting, easel painting, as you see here. And through that, like I said, I took all the classes of fundamentals and things like that. Enjoyed drawing 101, collage. Had some great instructors who really, kind of encouraged me. And cool thing about OCU too is that you had a lot of other nationalities come over, and where art was their thing, they took art as a part of their curriculum. Whereas we're kind of like some of our curriculum and humanities courses, it was just like an elective. But some other countries, that's a part of their core curriculum. So I was amazed at some of my friends that were from Korea and other areas that could just draw like nothing. And I was blown away. Just like you were blown away, I was blown away by the talent that was at OCU. And so with that, I felt like came a point in my life when I needed to take it another step. And so that's when I went to Santa Fe, New Mexico, to the Institute of American Indian Arts. And that's where I really feel like I started developing my narrative, because as an Indian person, I wanted to tell my stories, but I didn't know how. And so when I was out there, I had influences from a lot of other different tribal people where we had a lot of similarities, had some differences, but the bottom line is that we were all like one. We all had this unified like vision and voice of what we wanted to do or what we wanted our art to become. And red, white, yellow, black, whatever. I always think back to one of our Ponca chief's statements. When the Poncas were removed here to Oklahoma, they were the chief standing bearer. His son passed away on our Trail of Tears, if you will. And so moving to Oklahoma, in northern Oklahoma, near Ponca City today, present-day Ponca City, losing his son was hard on him and the family. And so I guess one of his son's last dying requests was that he not be buried in a foreign land. And so Standing Bear stood by that. And he took his family, a small band of Poncas, and they headed back towards Nebraska, northern Nebraska, Niobrara. But along the way, of course, they defied orders. They had to stay, but they defied orders to go back to the homeland. They were intercepted by the cavalry. And they ended up getting imprisoned near Omaha. And long story short is that there were some local attorneys and people that kind of empathized with the plight of the Poncas and chose to represent them in court. So just imagine this, Native American people, American Indian people, we weren't even considered citizens of the United States until 1924. But you have in the late 1800s a Ponca warrior chief stating his claim for civil rights. And so he's technically the first civil rights leader because he was stating for his people his right to return back to his homeland that he was wrongfully removed from. So, like I said, long story short, he won his day in court. And one of the things, the point I was wanting to make is that he said, if you pierce my hand, I'll feel pain. If I pierce your hand, you'll feel pain. If I cut my hand, the blood I bleed is red, just the same as you. He said, so we're all the same. He said, we're all like connected. We're all one. Doesn't matter the color of the skin. We're all human beings, right? So that was one of the kind of the benchmarks of that case, and made a statement there. And he is allowed to return back to his homeland. And there's a band of northern Poncas today that have a reservation up in northern Nebraska. So anyway, I always like to tell that because to me it shows that what we do, we're all connected. Doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. To me, I feel like there's that. It's just a part of being a human being. And so with that, what's my story? What's my narrative? Well, it's all about life experiences as an artist. That's what we do. That's the story we tell. And I do mine through colors and paint. And sometimes there's a title. Sometimes there isn't. But real quickly, I just want to talk about each one of these pieces here so it can give you a context of where I'm coming from. So the piece to my right, your left, that was a proposal for a mural. As it was stated earlier, I do like a lot more public artwork now. And since COVID hit, it's crazy. I've did more murals than I've ever done in my whole life. I think I've did 6 in 1 year. And I think it's because of COVID, everything was kind of out in the open, no more enclosed quarters, and we were trying to be out and open. So with that, I got more opportunities. So that was a blessing in disguise. And so, in fact, I got another mural coming up in Stillwater in the next few weeks. But like I said, this was a proposal for a mural that's in Sulphur, which I have 2 murals now in downtown Sulphur. But this was done for one of our Chickasaw businesses called Mahota Textiles. And so this is the proposed piece that I painted and then ended up putting this on her wall. So this is, like I said, Mahota Textiles. I have the ivory bill woodpecker. I have just different designs taken from her textiles and blankets. And then I have like our sun circle, our southeastern designs incorporated into there. And so on over is a piece next to that. It's called Rethink. And that piece is something I'm really passionate about. Is more about the narrative of anti-mascots and what the name represents. And at that time, I was definitely, as you can see, I was targeting the Washington Redskins, to which now they've changed their name. So, but this piece, right? Thanks. So, but what a lot of people didn't understand is like, because this is where it's really confusing, because you do have Native American people, Indian people that do still support teams with mascots like the Redskins. But to me, the Redskin name was so racist and derogatory, and it's only because people didn't understand where that name came from. And so what I wanted to do is I incorporated behind this image of the Redskin logo is the actual bounty that was put out on native skins back in the 1800s. That was in the Minneapolis Gazette, I believe. And so this is an actual bounty that was being a price on the head or the skins of native people, $200 for the skins. And there was so much blood, so much they would literally come into the town square, so to speak, and pile their skins like pelts, like they were collecting pelts on beavers or otters. And because of the blood and everything, it just, oh yeah, just put those red skins over there, put those red skins over there. So that's where that term came from. And a lot of people don't realize that. They think it's about, the color of our skin, which it is, but it isn't. It has like a dual meaning because Oklahoma, land of the red man, right? That's kind of what they were referring to, was kind of the tone of our skin. But the way it's used, the context was totally derogatory. So there's a give and take there. And I totally respect people, how they want to think about it. But I just always try to share a little bit of history with my paintings and a little bit of knowledge like that. So this next piece is one of my mixed media pieces. I enjoy working with found objects. Like I said, or like Linda said, I enjoy a lot of contemporary modern art. And so this piece was inspired by Robert Rauschenberg. And so he took a lot of found materials, cardboard, blankets, tires, what have you, and he made art out of it. And there begs the question, what is art? Hey, I could wrinkle this up and sign my name on it and throw it over there and like frame it. Hey, this is art now. Why is that art? Because I made it, But that's, that's the technicality of art. What is art, right? It's really up to the discernment of the people willing to pay for it and what they value that, right? Picasso, everyone knows Pablo Picasso, and this is one of the stories that I always like to share too, is that, so he was sitting in a side cafe, and some of you may have heard this, but he was sitting in a side cafe enjoying his espresso or what have you, and someone recognized him and came up to him and, oh my God, you're Picasso, can I have an autograph? Or he said, can you draw me something? And he said, oh yeah, sure. So I guess there was a little cocktail napkin or something there, and he got his pen, and he literally just scribbled like a couple lines. And before he gave it to her, she or he started taking it, and he said, that'll be $5,000. Wait, what? It's $5,000, and it's yours. He said, that literally took you 5 seconds to draw that. He said, but it took me a lifetime to create that. How true is that? And so I always use that when I talk to my students too about making their mark. They get frustrated when things don't come out just perfect, or they're like, I don't like that, and they put things to the side and say, you got to make those marks to get through to the marks that you want to make. And trust me, those marks will come back out somehow in another piece later on down the road. Trust me, but you got to get through those marks. But like I said, that simple scribble that took 5 seconds was like a lifetime of art, tribulations, ups and downs, rejections, what have you. So I always like to comment on that, and that gives me hope too. So that if y'all ever see me in a cafe and want to come get a piece of, no, it's like, yeah, here you go. I'll charge you $2,500, not $5,000. No, but this piece here, like I said, it's inspired by many art movements combined into one, mixed media, pop art, contemporary art. But I did this in 2007, so it's made its rounds. It's about to go to a collector in Colorado. She's a documentary filmmaker, and this is one of the pieces that she was focusing on. And much like an artist, this documentary's probably been in production like 8 years. So, but she's finally getting to the end of it, and it's called Red Earth Rising. Red Earth Rising. So, kind of be looking for that to come out maybe in the next year or so. But yeah, this is something dealing with the commentary about the centennial. When we had the centennial in 2007, there was a lot of narratives speaking to the celebrations and things like this, but very little is being said about, well, what about Indian territory? What about what's already here? And I feel like there was some token demonstrations and parades and things that my fellow Indian singers and people were participating in, which that's all good. At least we had some representation, but I felt like it was underrepresented. So I was a part of the show that appeared at IAO, Individual Artists of Oklahoma. It's not there anymore. It used to be on Automobile Alley, but that show was a collective of like 30 artists that came out and just had a response to the narrative. And this of the centennial, of the Oklahoma Centennial. So this is mine. And I'm a singer. I sing around the drum. I also sing church hymns and things like that. But I love to sing. And so I wanted to incorporate something that was a part of me. And so that right there is a chair that like a drum chair that I would sit on. It was really beat up and tethered. So I took it off my chair and put it into this. But I also use barbed wire. To me, that represents kind of the constricted nature of just whatever it may be for anybody, whatever kind of issues or troubles, things that just feel like you feel bound by this, right? So I feel like that was a part of the history and the story that wasn't being told from a Native perspective. And then I had a friend that had a barn, like an old barn, and he had all these planks. And so these planks are taken from a barn that was like put up in the late 1800s. So I thought that's kind of cool. 1834, that's the year that Oklahoma was deemed Indian Territory forever. As the saying goes, as long as the grass grows, the wind blows, the river flows, right? But we all know 55 years later what happens. And so that's what the rest of it's commenting on. So there's a lot of different things going on. And the frame itself is surrounded by Oklahoma maps, Indian Territory maps, actually. So, but anyway, I think I'm going to stop there because I do have some images I want to go through. I always feel like I want to share images and not talk so much. And I realize that, hey, it's already 15 minutes past and I've been rambling, I feel like. But I want to give you all just go through and just briefly talk about these images. And Rex, if you just maybe I'll give you a thumbs up when we're ready for the next one. I paint one. I said, well, I'm just going to experiment and have fun. And so on the screen there, you see one of the paintings that I call muscadine medicine, which is referring to possum grapes. And so with that one, I was thinking of our grape dumplings. I don't know if anyone here has had the luxury of having a wild onion dinner. Who's had wild onions? It's wild onions, grape dumplings. A house that was just, I wanted to paint it. I like flowers and like roses. But for that particular piece, I just wanted to be real loose with it and kind of, I'll tell you real quick. I swear I could talk about each painting here probably for about 10 minutes. So I'm trying to not delve into that. But for the roses, I'll tell you, on this one painting, we're trying to wipe away some paint. So I had my rag and I rolled it up, and it's kind of like this. And I was really just trying to wipe it. But when I put that rag down and hit the paint and lifted away, I was like, oh man, that made roses. And so I started getting my rag and really folding it. And then I was just all over. So something like that, just something as simple as that. And I came up with the flowers and roses. That's what led to that painting. So anyway, the piece you see on the screen, I call that Buffalo Heart. And as you can see, the other buffalo here, I don't know, I just have a thing with the spectrum. I like color theory, color harmonies. And I just always put that out to the side for whatever reason. I don't know why. But I like a lot of drips and splatters. And as you can see in the buffaloes that I have here, the one on screen and then the one I actually have here, you see the buffalo, the drips and just kind of the real loose kind of technique. But on my Ponca side, I'm a buffalo head. That's my family name. And so I think because of that, a lot of the affinity for painting buffaloes comes through. So that's why I might have a couple other buffalo paintings here to share. Yep, there we go. This one's done more like in a plains style, which you might see on a hide of a teepee or on a shield. It's more 2D. But I took some graffiti-esque elements, and the red arrow kind of made it more graffiti-esque. And those represent a lifeline. The lifeline, the bloodline of the animal. And so that's what that represents. And I just include some other colors, and those are buffalo hooves on the side there. So that's that one. This one is called, this is one of my T.C. Cannon influences. I call this Buffalo Police. There again, another buffalo reference. But our Ponca people, before we used to go out to buffalo hunt, we had warriors that were designated to keep people from trying to jump the gun, so to speak. And so they would have a whip, and they sometimes called him a whip man. But they wanted to make sure that no one got the jump ahead of anyone before the buffalo hunt, to either because they might scare away the buffalo, they might try to cash in early on a buffalo. So anyway, they try to leverage that and police, if you will, the buffalo hunts. And so this is a contemporary rendition, and I'll be honest, I painted this. This is the second iteration of this style of painting. I painted the first one in the early 2000s, and it was more of a silhouette, and you saw his chaps and his sleeves, and he had a kind of the, like you said, the cowboy hat was kind of, or the crown top hat was kind of tipped back, and I don't know, no one's been able to tell me for sure or not, but everyone's seen the Cowboy Hall of Fame logo, right? I don't know where they got that logo, but I think they got it from me. I'm just saying, I'd painted that style of my Indian cowboy, if you will, back in the early 2000s, and they came out with that logo, probably mid 2000s, late 2000s. Anyway, y'all have a look at that Cowboy Hall of Fame logo next time, and hey, he's right. So anyway, I have a good friend that's a curator there, and I've asked him about it, and he's looking into it for me. So anyway, I'm trying to cash in. I just want to... And so, see, this is another one of my silhouette pieces that was more like the cowboy figure, but I brought out more elements. But this is a painting I did in 1999 called Cedar Creek. And I just basically named it that because I was thinking of all the cedar trees, and I'm going to throw a creek in there. So sometimes artists, we do things just because. So this is one I did for Eric Clapton. This is when he came to concert here about 7 or 8 years ago. I was commissioned to paint a guitar case for him. So I took one of the Southeastern hand elements, and I was thinking about one of those guitars that was like from the 70s or late 60s, really psychedelic, really groovy. So I had those colors incorporated into the hand. And then 2 of his favorite guitars, one's called Brownie, one's called Blackie. And so I took the kind of the remnants of those guitars and kind of made them Southeastern and tribal. And I left a note in his guitar case, said, hey, if you ever need help or need another painting, anyway, try to leave a little note in there. But, he's probably got 24 guitar cases. Who knows? Anyway, this is one of my drums. As you said, if it's paintable, I'll paint on it. So this is a hand drum that we would sing or use for ceremonies. And it's done in a Southeastern style. And when I say Southeastern, I'm talking about our... Mississippian cultures, Muskokean cultures, Kentucky, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, the southeastern part of the United States, where we had mounds. We had a thriving culture. The mounds are much like the ziggurats of Mexico, and we had a very complex southeastern ceremonial complex society with chiefdoms, with people that some have seen the Chickasaw videos that encountered DeSoto and were part of the American wars and French wars. And so the Southeastern American, Native American people were very involved in that. So, but the mound builders, the culture itself, the ancient culture, they had a lot of carvings and etchings. And so they had a particular style. And so that's what this is kind of taken from. Of course, I always have to add color. Now this piece, you might see some similarities in this piece as far as the color scheme to my buffalo here. And that's because this wolf and this buffalo were a live paint piece. So I do these live paint pieces where I'll start with a blank canvas, and then 2 hours later, I try to finish something. And it depends on the crowd. Sometimes there's more talking, sometimes there's more visiting, and sometimes I just get to paint when I'm on the deadline like that. And I like it because I'm incorporating real fast gestural movements. I have to be quick. I can't second guess myself. It's a great way to complete a painting. In fact, my wife says, you should just act like every painting is a live painting, because some paintings I've had for 3 years and I'm still like, I just need to get it done. Anyway, so this is a live paint piece. Again, this is another piece. It says, Hello Foshi. In Chickasaw, it means little thunderbird. And that's our scissor tail. And I've used this in other murals and things like that too. So, but I want to make this engaging, and it's informal, but if y'all have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or stop me at any time, because I don't want to just be the one up here talking. So, any questions? I know everyone's full. Baked potatoes are kind of hitting, right? Like, just take a little... Yeah. No, Ponca's Northern Plains. and they were bordered right with the Lakota Nation. And how they lost their land in the first place is the government, when they were outlining the boundaries of the reservations, they overshot into the Ponca's homelands and gave that land to the Sioux. Go figure. And rather than correct the mistake and go through all that again, they just relocated the Poncas to Oklahoma. This piece is called Iron Horse Blues. And y'all probably can imagine why it's called Iron Horse, right? Well, with the coming of the train and Western expansion, never seen a train. So we knew the movement and just the ability of what it had and how it was, making its way through the countryside, so to speak. It just started being deemed the Iron Horse. So, and of course, I'm a singer, so I always got to incorporate singing somewhere. Singers and buffaloes, that's kind of my go-to.
If you have a question, just raise your hand. I'll give you the mic.
Yeah.
How important and influential is the medium? What do you, are these oils, acrylic?
Good question. Good question. They are acrylics.
Okay.
Acrylics, and then, of course, the live paint pieces, I use charcoal. I sketch it out in charcoal, and then I use that to help create my values and shades, and that's why I like using charcoal for live paints. But it's all acrylics, water-based medium. I do some printmaking, too, so use a lot of water-based inks for that. So, and of course, like I said, collage. I have a collage up here of one of our Chickasaw performers, Tayada. So towards the end of the service or after the service, I guess, if you want to come up and check these pieces out. I really love the collage piece. It doesn't do it justice where you're sitting. If you come look at it and check it out up close and personal, you'll see all the little details that are in that. And I kind of really lost myself. You can see, if you like to break down a painting, as I always do, whenever I go to a gallery, or you probably notice people, if you go to a gallery museum, why some people are like this. I'm that guy. I'm always trying to break down. I wonder how they did that, or I'm looking like, I think I know how they did that. I always want to see these layers and things going on, right? And then, so that's what I did with this collage. I started with a blanket. But then, man, when I got to her face, I started like really collaging different things and like making shadows with paper and cutting. And so I really kind of lost myself in her face, and it really, really kind of took over. So
Is that one of your ledger pieces?
yeah, and behind that collage, yeah, it's a piece of ledger paper. Yeah. And this is just a rough sketch. Y'all saw the fish from earlier? Yeah, this is just the rough sketch, the idea. Everything kind of begins with a sketch and I just sketch out and have an idea, and then I kind of just visualize that, and I bring it to life into a painting. So yeah, this is just kind of, I wanted to show you a little example of that. So
Are there other questions?
and it doesn't have to be about art, it could be about anything. Except politics. No politics. Hey.
So the ivory-billed woodpeckers in the painting there on your far right,
Yes.
they're almost extinct in the wild, aren't they? Were they an important part of the Southeast culture?
Yeah, so they were very instrumental in Southeastern culture because, they were abundant back in the day. But we consider the woodpecker like our guardian bird, so to speak. From what I've been told is that, my understanding is that whenever the enemies were near, they would start, rasping or hitting the tree or making their noises, whatever. They kind of warned us, so to speak. And so because of that, you'll see a lot of like maybe the shields or the monolithic axes or whatever other kind of accoutrements the warriors might have. They might have woodpecker feathers on them as a form of protection. But the ivory build, I think the last one that they verified was like probably 50 years ago. I think it's being moved to the extinct species list. But because they said they seen some, I think in the early 2000s at the Port Aransas, but that was only a visual. They said until we get actual proof, we need like a photo, a video. We can't verify that. But they said no, it was. They were called the king bird. They were huge, probably about this big, from tuft to tail. The wings are like, yeah, they were a huge bird. So this is another one. This is a doubled guardian ivory-billed woodpecker rendition on a drum too. So But yeah, they were called the kingbird of the South. But they're beautiful. And you still see those, the woodpeckers of today, the pileated woodpeckers. They're kind of their close cousins, if you will. But they're like not even close to the size of the ivory bill. This piece here is called Going to Town. I just saw this photo of a Chickasaw grandmother, and I immediately thought of my grandmother. And so when I painted this, I wanted to keep it like in an old style photograph. And she had like the shades on, and of course we all know it's because she wasn't trying to be cool. It was probably because she had cataracts, right? Unfortunately, but she had the shades and a headscarf on, and I guess that old time, car. This is like from the 1950s, 1940s. But yeah, I just envisioned my grandmother going to town. And this piece was at a show in the Cowboy Hall of Fame, and it's only, amazingly enough, this piece is only 2 by 3 inches big. It's a miniature. Yeah, so I had a lot of fun painting that, and I was like, why am I doing that? Because I go from miniatures to these large murals where I'm just doing. And people wonder why the murals I can get those done relatively quick, but these little paintings might take me twice as long. That's just because when you're painting murals, you can cover more space and make more gestural, free movements and stuff. So, but just let me know when we're good, if we got more questions.
Do we have any other questions?
Are you getting upcoming shows? Because of work, no. We got tasked with doing some summer program for the Arts Academy and Chickasaw Nation. So I normally do Santa Fe, which is coming up in August. So, but there'll be like art exhibitions and things out there. And I have a website. My website is just brentgreenwood.com. I'll update that as soon as I get some sites confirmed, and have some business cards over here. So, but you can find me on the internet, Brent Greenwood, which has all my social media stuff too attached to that. Who do y'all think that is? Yeah. So that one, this was done in 1999. And it was documented. It was kind of my documentation of the Battle of the Little Bighorn. And so I called this Custer's Target shirt. And so you can see right here, it's a piece of quill work, but it's made like a target, right? He just left himself open for everything. And the meaning behind this, you can see how it's raining arrows in the background. There's a ledger style, I say ledger, like a plain style, a warrior on the horseback who's done like in a Sioux style. And he's got a pistol out to his side, because he was so arrogant. And, the 7th Cavalry will never be defeated, right? And they were no match for what they came up against. And it's because of his arrogance, and everyone knows the rest of that history. But out to his side is that pistol. And I was referencing that statement by that pistol because out to the side of that pistol is like a little pop gun that you see in the cartoons that go bang, and a little flag would come out and say bang. Well, that's his little 7th Cavalry flag, because that's all they were rendered useless, not useless, but they were rendered ineffective that day, and they defeated. And then so Custer had scouts too, and they said his only scout that got away was named Curly, and they said he shapeshifted into a crow. That's how he escaped. And so that's what you see that bird to the side. To me, that's Curly shapeshifting and kind of making his escape. But yeah, that's the infamous General George Armstrong Custer. And again, this is just a Chickasaw Southeastern painting. Got our stomp dancers. It was done for an educational group, and so I got I forgot which building that is on OU. But then you can see the Devon Tower in the background. So.
Well, I'm afraid that our time is ending.
Yeah.
And we are so glad you're here, Brent. We're so glad you could share
Absolutely.
your work with us. We can go up and look at the art later after worship. Kate, can you close us with shalom to you now? And can we give Brent?
Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Shalom. Shalom to you. Shall we do what's next, or?
Shalom to you. Do you want to, she asked for shalom. Shalom to
Oh,
you.
okay, that's the end of it. Thank you.
Shalom to you now, shalom, my friends. May God's full mercies bless you, my friends. In all your living and through your loving, Christ be your shalom, Christ be your shalom. Shalom to you now, shalom, my friends. May